let's look at Vegas. So let's look at the Cup final matchup as it is now, and try to relate the point that we were trying to make earlier. But like,
Were
if
we trying to
Vegas
make a point
wins,
earlier?
I don't know really at this point. It's Monday. Vegas 1 win away from winning the Stanley Cup, Game 5 on Tuesday. I would love to know from your vantage point, Mark, as much as you have watched, because it is off season for a couple people, and people do like to take breaks and stuff. Any sense from your vantage point, or at least from what you've seen, who do you think is the biggest reason why the Golden Knights have reached this point that they're on the verge of their first ever Stanley Cup?
I mean, Marchessault or Eichel are going to win the Conn Smythe, but it's Adin Hill. It's Adin Hill. Like, they're not going anywhere if Adin Hill doesn't have a .935 save percentage. If, this is, and the more I think about it, the more I'm starting to think goalies are the new running backs, where it is really dumb to invest a lot of money into them because they're so random. Adin Hill's a 27-year-old who never played more than 25 games in a season before, never played in the playoffs. He's the third string goalie on this team, and he's going to win you the Stanley Cup. This is Antti Niemi in 2010. This is Jordan Binnington, who went on an incredible run and really hasn't been very good since. Who was it last year? It was Darcy Kemper.
Darcy Kemper. Yeah, and then Pavel Francouz took over for a couple games too.
Like we're just seeing, yes, Connor Hellebuck is awesome, and Igor Shesterkin is awesome, and Ilya Sorokin is awesome. And if you can get one of those guys, great. But beyond maybe 3 or 4 guys, spending any money on a goalie is just idiotic right now, because we're seeing that it's a lot about the right timing. It's a lot about the right fit. It's the team in front of you, and goaltending in general is just so unpredictable at this point that, what the hell? Just go nuts. Like, look at Bobrovsky. Who saw this coming from Bobrovsky? He wasn't even the starting goalie going into the playoffs either. How many times do we have to see this? That maybe spending $10.5 million on a goalie is not the best use of your resources.
Which is kind of ironic you mentioned Bobrovsky, because he's the most expensive goaltender left in this postseason.
And how's that going? I mean, it got him there. You can't crap on. It's not Bobrovsky's fault there, but I'm just saying, like, he was the backup going into this playoffs.
He was, but also to your point about Adin Hill entered the Stanley Cup final with slightly better numbers than Sergei Bobrovsky. It's just that Sergei Bobrovsky was doing what he was doing on a team that was the lowest possible seed in the Eastern Conference, getting into the postseason when it almost looked as if they weren't going to make it. It was Alex Lyon who had to carry them into the playoffs, and he got the start, and then Sergei Bobrovsky did his thing. But Adin Hill, he was my pre-series pick to win the Conn Smythe. I'm not sure at this point if he'll still get it, but you're right. Like, he deserves so much credit. And I feel, I mean, Joe Smith did a great job of writing a story on him a couple of days ago, but it felt like his story was kind of pushed to the back, considering how good Vegas was, considering how we were very much enamored with Sergei Bobrovsky, considering how enamored we were with Matthew Tkachuk becoming a star, a superstar, worthy of being profiled in People magazine and being on and inside the NBA on TNT, rubbing shoulders with Charles Barkley wearing an elbow room shirt. Like, Adin Hill was very much pushed to the back, and then game 1 happens. But I mean, for the rest of the series, I mean, I think Jonathan Marchessault, he would be my pick if I had a vote to win for who should win the Conn Smythe Trophy. And maybe it's a bit of a spoiler for our Conn Smythe winner of the week at the end of the show. But I don't know. It's really interesting to see people kind of bring up Jack Eichel and say, hey, well, he's been performing as well as he has. He's been a big reason why Marchessault's been performing the way that he has, and he deserves just as much of a chance at the Conn Smythe Trophy. I don't know if you have a vote in this, but like, I wonder where you would actually vote.
Well, it's tough because, like, anytime you have a team that wins the Stanley Cup, unless it's, a very unusual circuit, you're going to have several guys who have been playing like on the run of their careers. That's how you win a Stanley Cup, is you have multiple players playing unbelievable hockey. So, I mean, Eichel has been just a monster. Like, whether he's producing or not, you could tell he's the best player on the ice. Marchessault scoring all these goals. You can't deny that he's scoring all these goals. He's on an incredible streak. Adin Hill, his numbers are ridiculous. And I'm a guy who believes that goaltenders are by far the most important. Like, I always have a goalie or two on my heart ballot, because how could you argue that almost any skater short of Connor McDavid is more valuable to any team than a goalie? So the goalies always deserve more Conn Smythe consideration in my mind. I thought, the 3 years I voted on the Conn Smythe were 2013, 2014, and 2015. And Corey Crawford probably should have won the Conn Smythe in 13, and he probably should have won it in 15, because Hawks don't get that far without him. And every year you have these debates. I remember, what was it? Crosby and Kessel. in 16 or 17. There's always a few people that deserve it because you can't win the Stanley Cup on the back of just one man. You're always going to have 3 or 4 guys that are doing it for you.